You know that feeling when you are sitting at your desk sipping your morning coffee and an article pops up on your feed with a headline designed to just make your stomach drop?
Oh, yeah. The classic doom scrolling moment.
Exactly. You read something like, uh, AI will automate 300 million jobs, or generative AI is coming for the white-collar workforce.
Right, and suddenly the coffee doesn't taste so great.
No, it doesn't. You start looking at your laptop like it's a ticking time bomb, wondering if your entire career path is about to be outsourced to some, server farm in the desert.
It is a very specific kind of modern dread,
Yeah.
honestly.
Yep.
I mean, we have been conditioned by a century of science fiction to imagine automation as this autonomous, unstoppable force.
Yeah, like Terminators marching in and physically clearing out the office.
Exactly. We tend to view it as a binary outcome. You either have a job or the machine has your job. But the narrative rarely leaves room for a middle ground.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because our mission for today's deep dive is to look at a stack of recent research, including an article and a really detailed breakdown from the career technology platform SkillDrift.
Right, and their research completely flips that doom and gloom narrative.
It really does. I mean, the title of their research alone is a huge reality check. It's called AI Isn't Taking Your Job, but Someone Using AI Will.
And that title identifies the actual danger right there.
Yeah.
The immediate threat to your livelihood is far more local than some abstract piece of code.
Wait, so you're saying the threat is human?
Exactly. The threat is the ambitious professional sitting in the cubicle right next to you, or the person jumping on the same Zoom calls as you, who has figured out how to use that algorithm to work faster.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, to learn smarter and anticipate where the market is moving. AI, in its current iteration, is not an autonomous job terminator. It is a force multiplier.
So if the threat is human adaptation, then the solution has to be human adaptation, right? I mean, the old rules of playing defense, keeping your head down, and hoping the axe doesn't fall, they just don't apply anymore.
They really don't.
To beat that ambitious professional sitting next to you, you first have to understand that the rules of the job hunt itself have fundamentally changed. We are moving from a world of reactive hunting to predictive matching.
Right. Think about the traditional method of career advancement. It is inherently reactive. You sit in your current role, maybe you get bored or you want a raise, so you wait for a company to post a job on a board.
And then you polish up a static resume you haven't touched in 3 years.
Exactly, and you throw it into a digital pile with 1,000 other hopefuls. At that point, you are entirely at the mercy of an overworked recruiter who might spend, 6 seconds looking at your application.
If you're lucky. And by the time that job is posted, the need is already urgent for the company. The market has already spoken. The wave has already formed. There's a great example from the software engineering landscape over the past couple of years that perfectly illustrates this. You had all these traditional reactive developers who kept applying for standard front-end roles because, well, that is what they knew.
Right, but the market for those roles was quietly becoming completely saturated.
Yeah. And while they were caught in that cycle, a different subset of developers, the predictive ones, were playing an entirely different game.
They recognized the AI wave early, but more importantly, they actively used AI platforms to analyze the text of emerging job descriptions across the entire tech industry.
They weren't just reading job titles, were they?
No, they were letting algorithms scan millions of data points to find micro shifts in the language companies were using to describe their pain points.
Right, and they noticed a massive early spike in demand for very specific things like prompt engineering and LLM integration.
Exactly.
Now, just to pause for a second, because we throw these terms around a lot. For you listening, LLM stands for Large Language Model. It's the underlying architecture behind tools like ChatGPT.
Right, the engine that processes and generates human-like text by predicting patterns in massive data sets.
So how did these developers actually use that?
What's fascinating here is how these predictive developers leverage that information. Before LLM integration specialist was even a standardized job title on major hiring boards, these developers saw the language trending.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, they realized that companies didn't just want an off-the-shelf chatbot, they needed engineers who could connect these massive language models directly to their proprietary internal data securely.
So the predictive candidates saw the demand forming and upskilled accordingly.
Right.
By the time those roles hit mainstream job boards and the reactive developers realized what was happening, the predictive candidates already owned the market.
They were miles ahead.
I used to think about job hunting like surfing, Or you just wait on the beach until you see a wave crashing and then try to run in and catch it. But predictive matching isn't that at all.
No, not at all.
It is more like using a radar, studying global weather patterns, ocean currents, and the topography of the seafloor so you can paddle out calmly and sit at the exact coordinate where you know the wave is going to peak tomorrow morning.
That is a much more accurate way to look at it. AI allows professionals to map those industry trajectories. It gives you the coordinates so you can position yourself at the exact intersection of your current skills and tomorrow's high-value roles.
But knowing the coordinates, knowing where the market is going, that's only half the battle. Because once you see that the market needs LLM integration, you actually have to know how to do it.
Exactly. You have to acquire the capability.
This points to the second major shift in our deep dive, which is the total death of the shotgun approach to upskilling.
The shotgun approach is the old, dangerously slow model of trying to make yourself more valuable. You enroll in a broad, expensive 2-year degree program, or you take a handful of random online courses.
Hoping that some piece of that scattershot knowledge will eventually pay off and impress a hiring manager.
Right, and it is wildly inefficient.
It's exhausting. I mean, I've definitely fallen into that trap, taking a massive 6-week digital marketing course just because I thought it would look good on a resume, when I really only needed to know how to run one specific type of ad campaign.
Most people have been there, but the professionals who are thriving right now have completely abandoned that model. Instead of shotgun blasts, they're using precise skill gap analyses to learn exact micro skills.
Right, micro skills.
We can see this happening at the highest levels of global enterprise right now. Look at Unilever.
Oh yeah, the consumer goods company.
Yes, they are a massive global brand, and they completely overhauled how they view their talent pool by deploying an AI-driven internal mobility platform called Flex.
Okay, and what does Flex actually do?
The core innovation of Flex is how it views the employee. It stops looking at people through the lens of rigid job titles, like marketing director or supply chain analyst. Instead, the AI breaks every single employee down into their component skills.
Wait, if AI breaks us down into component skills, doesn't that make us sound like machines on an assembly line rather than human employees?
I totally get why you'd say that.
Yeah, I think for a lot of people listening, being referred to as a bundle of component skills sounds incredibly dehumanizing.
It is a very natural reaction to feel like that language is reductive. But if we connect this to the bigger picture, it is actually the exact opposite of being a cog in a machine.
How so?
The reality is that your traditional job title was the assembly line box. If your title was accountant, human resources only ever considered you for accounting roles.
Oh, I see.
It didn't matter if you were also an incredible public speaker, a wizard at data visualization, or a natural project manager. You were trapped by the title. Breaking you down into micro skills actually frees you from that box.
Right. It's acknowledging the full range of what you can actually do rather than just what your current boss pays you to do.
Precisely. At Unilever, when a new project arises, the AI doesn't search the company directory for a specific title. It looks for the precise skills needed to execute the project.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it matches the people who have that unique mosaic of capabilities. Or, crucially, it identifies the quickest upskilling path for those who are close.
So if a new initiative requires 10 specific micro skills, and I have 8 of them from my past experience, the AI can flag me and say, hey, you just need to learn these 2 specific things to qualify for this high-level project.
Exactly.
Then I can learn those 2 things in targeted, just-in-time bursts. I don't have to go back to school for 2 years.
Right. It makes the individual infinitely more adaptable. You're no longer defined by the title you held in the past, but by the capabilities you can bring to the future.
But building this mosaic of micro skills creates a new problem for you listening. I mean, if you don't have a traditional job title anymore, how do you map out a long-term career path?
That is the million-dollar question.
You can't just climb a corporate ladder if you don't know what the rungs are. This shift requires a fundamental rewiring of how we view our long-term goals. We have to move away from the illusion of job security and toward what the research calls career agility.
For decades, the ultimate cultural goal was job security. You find a stable company, you get your desk, you keep your head down, and you hold on for dear life until retirement.
Right.
But in an AI-accelerated world, job security is simply an illusion. Disruption is the baseline state of the economy now. Therefore, your safety net cannot be a corporation. Your safety net is career agility.
And the text defines career agility as having an agentic mindset, meaning, you are the active agent in your professional life.
Yes, you are in the driver's seat.
Exactly. You are not a passive passenger in the back seat, just closing your eyes and hoping the company doesn't drive off a cliff or decide to lay you off to appease shareholders.
It is the absolute confidence that no matter how violently your specific industry is disrupted tomorrow, you have the personal systems in place to pivot effortlessly.
So, what does this all mean? How do you actually apply an agentic mindset on a random Tuesday morning when you're just trying to get your emails answered?
The overarching advice is to treat your career like a startup. Think about how a successful startup operates. They don't just build a product in a vacuum for 5 years, launch it, and hope people buy it.
No, they build an MVP, right?
Exactly, a minimum viable product.
Yeah.
A rough version of their idea. They put it into the market, they gather real-time data on how users interact with it, and they iterate. They pivot constantly based on market feedback.
And our careers have to function the exact same way.
Yes, you must be constantly validating your current skills, gathering data on what the market wants next, and adjusting your trajectory before you are forced to.
I love the startup analogy because it takes the emotion and the panic out of the equation. If a startup's product feature fails to gain traction, the founders don't cry about it, they just read the data and build a better feature.
Exactly, it's just data.
Right, so if your current skill set is losing market value because AI can now do a portion of it, you don't panic. You acquire a new micro skill that stacks on top of it.
That's the mindset shift right there.
But to run your career like a startup, you need actual tools.
Yeah.
A startup has analytics dashboards, market research teams, and development cycles. If we're supposed to be this agile, we need infrastructure to support that agility.
And that brings us to the practical application of this philosophy. The research highlights the SkillDrift platform as a prime example of an agentic AI career strategist.
Which sounds very futuristic.
It does, but we can look at this tool not just as a product, but as a blueprint for how this new level of career infrastructure actually operates.
Let's break down how a platform like this works, because the concepts mirror everything we've just discussed. They start with in-platform predictive matching.
Right.
This isn't a traditional job board that just shows you what is currently open. It actively analyzes your unique, granular skill profile against the broader market. But here's the part I need you to explain. It claims to highlight latent skills you already possess, identifying high-value roles you didn't even know you were qualified for. How does an AI actually extract a skill that I haven't explicitly written down on my resume?
It all comes down to context and pattern recognition. A traditional applicant tracking system just searches for keywords.
Yep.
If the job requires budget management and you don't have those exact words typed out, you get filtered out.
Even if you managed budgets.
Exactly.
Eh,
But an advanced AI looks at the context of your experience.
Seems interesting.
Yeah, if you describe leading a cross-functional team to launch a $5 million software product on a tight deadline, the AI infers a whole host of latent micro skills: vendor negotiation, risk management, agile methodology, stakeholder communication.
Wow.
It extracts the underlying competencies from the work you actually did, even if you never thought to label them as specific skills.
That is incredible. It's doing the translation work for you. And once it shows you these roles you are a 90% match for, it highlights the 10% you are missing, which leads to the concept of precision upskilling. Instead of taking a massive course, platforms like this deliver hyper-targeted, bite-sized learning modules to bridge that specific 10% gap.
And they tie it directly to a real-time growth engine. Traditional upskilling feels like an insurmountable hurdle because the payoff is so delayed.
Yeah, you study for months hoping it matters.
Exactly. But modern platforms use gamification. When you complete a micromodule and pass a validation quiz, your dashboard dynamically updates. You literally watch your skill gaps visually shrink in real time on your screen.
The psychological impact of that is huge.
Massive.
As those gaps close, your live market value increases. Your job match percentage for specific high-value roles actively ticks upward. You are tying the act of learning directly to immediate, visible market competitiveness.
Right.
And then it completely automates the most tedious part of professional growth, which is zero-friction resume updates. As you validate these new competencies, the AI automatically weaves them into a tailored profile so you are perpetually interview-ready.
This is where the technology shifts from being a personal development tool to a competitive weapon.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Let's take the concept of an external JD engine. JD meaning job description.
Right.
Say you are browsing the internet and you find your absolute dream job at a company you love. You can take that external job description, import it directly into the AI system, and it will execute a deep dive, custom skill gap analysis for that exact hiring manager's needs.
The AI analyzes the specific text of the job description against your dynamic profile. You aren't guessing what the hiring manager is prioritizing based on a vague, bulleted list.
No more guessing.
The AI decodes their exact language, identifies any micro skills you need to brush up on before the interview, and then dynamically tailors your resume to ensure your application perfectly aligns with their vocabulary. It translates your history into their language.
That is wild.
This raises an important question, though, and it is vital for anyone listening to understand the implications of this shift. If ambitious professionals are adopting this infrastructure, if they are dynamically updating their resumes, perfectly aligning their skills with job descriptions, and closing their gaps in real time, the baseline of competition has permanently been elevated.
Average is no longer average.
Precisely.
If you are still manually typing out a generic objective statement on a Word document, saving it as a PDF, and blasting the exact same file out to 50 different companies, you aren't just slightly behind the curve.
No.
You are trying to win a Formula One race while riding a bicycle. You are playing a game that the rest of the market has already abandoned.
Which brings us right back to the central thesis we started with. The old game of passive reactive job applications is definitively dead.
Dead and buried.
You cannot play defense anymore, hoping the algorithm passes over you. But the empowering takeaway is that you also cannot and should not try to compete against AI. It is a losing battle.
You compete with it by utilizing predictive matching to see where the market is going before the wave breaks.
Exactly.
By using precision upskilling to learn the exact micro skills required to get there, and by adopting a startup mindset of career agility, you become the adaptable, unstoppable professional that those sensational headlines warned us about.
You become the person sitting in the cubicle who has figured it out.
And you can actually start testing this today. The research notes that anyone can run a free, personalized skill gap analysis without a credit card at app.skilldrift.ai just to see exactly where your current skills map to the live market.
It is a highly practical starting point. Stop guessing what you're worth and let the data show you where your latent value actually lies.
As we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with a thought to mull over. It's something that wasn't explicitly answered in our reading today, but naturally stems from everything we've explored about this new baseline of competition.
It is the next logical dilemma in the evolution of the workplace.
Think about it. If AI career management becomes the universal standard, meaning every single candidate that applies for a role has perfectly mapped their micro skills, and every single candidate submits a flawlessly tailored resume that hits all the exact right keywords for the hiring manager, how will companies of the future actually decide who gets the job?
Right, if the hard skills are perfectly equalized.
Exactly. If the hard technical skills in the resumes are all perfectly optimized and equalized by algorithms, will our deeply human soft skills, our personality, our empathy, our ability to collaborate, and our capacity to navigate complex human emotions become the only true differentiators left in a fully automated hiring market?
It is a fascinating paradox. The more we rely on AI to perfect our technical presentation and map our capabilities, the more our fundamental humanity might become our ultimate competitive advantage.
So tomorrow, when you sit down at your desk and you look at the person sitting next to you, maybe don't worry so much about the algorithm replacing you. Worry about whether you are using the tools available to be the most agile, adaptable version of yourself.
The wave is forming out of the ocean.
It sure is. It's time to read the data, grab your board, and paddle out.